In this video we will talk about managerial roles, and in particular we'll talk about Henry Mintzberg's view of managerial roles. Mintzberg made significant contributions to the understanding of managerial work and managerial characteristics, and he based his thinking on research into managerial behaviour. He identified 6 characteristics of managerial work, and we'll go through these briefly now. So his 6 characteristics of managerial work are: managers are required to be productive and to problem solve. So the manager must be capable of thinking. When an issue arises and production stops, the manager is the first port of call. The manager is the first person to whom everyone will look for a solution. So if the manager can solve it, then the business proceeds. If it's a major item, of course, they may have to have a specialist in. But generally speaking, managers should be productive and capable of problem solving. Managerial activities also have variety. They're fragmented and they're brief. We have a situation where the manager is beset by a lot of small issues, small problems, all broken up, all different. There's great variety to it. And activities within businesses are not always structured or scheduled, or not scheduled correctly. So issues must be resolved all the time to keep production smoothly running. And managers tend to be interested in dealing with specific issues, and ideally current issues right now. Managers, they don't look into the future, perhaps. They're more interested in problem solving now, keeping what we've got now running. So looking at issues associated with the here and the now, as opposed to long run. The manager is the main port of contact. They stand between the organisation and a network of other contacts. Some of these contacts are almost horizontal. The manager in one business may contact a manager in another business who is a supplier. So, for example, if raw material is arriving from some supplier, the manager may talk about the quality of the raw material to a manager in the other company. So it may be one manager to the other. Or it could be, depending on the level of the management we're talking about, it could be that the manager deals with the press or deals with queries from the community. So the manager, however, is the main port of call. The manager is the person who's got expertise, and that's the main issue. They have a tendency to demonstrate a strong preference for spoken media. They like to talk. They prefer not to write it down, not to write down the problem or the issue or the query, to go face to face with the person who has an issue, who has a problem, and try to resolve it there and then. So they have a strong preference, according to Mintzberg, of dealing in that way. A big plus point for the manager is the fact that they can handle their own affairs effectively, despite interruptions and pressures from work activities, and indeed from the whole work environment. Managers, in that sense, are quite remarkable people. They have all the pressure from work, pressure from senior management perhaps, pressure right from the top of the hierarchy. They have pressure from the workers, they have technical problems, they have issues, commercial issues of shortages of material or bad quality materials, or they have all these issues, all these problems coming to them. They seem to be able to absorb it, and at the same time perhaps have a family life and have a social life and live their lives. So in that sense, managers are quite remarkable people. Now let's move from the characteristics, as Mintzberg saw them, and talk about the managerial role. Well, in this context, Mintzberg identified 10 roles that management undertake when performing their work activities. The 10 roles are further grouped according to 3 major classifications. I'll just put the cursor onto the screen for a moment. The first one here is the interpersonal role. That means the figurehead role, the leader, and liaison. So under figurehead, leader, liaison, those I should say come under the interpersonal role. The second is informational role, and this is composed of monitor, disseminator, and spokesperson. Then we have decisional roles, entrepreneur, disturbance handler, resource allocator, and negotiator. Now, the rest of this video will be taken up by talking about these. Bear in mind, they are grouped in this way. But as you will see from the slides as we work through, I tend to just put the headings down as per here. So I've got headings for figurehead, leader, liaison, disseminator, disturbance handler, and so on. So do bear in mind, they are grouped under these headings here. So let's first of all look at the interpersonal roles. And this is the manager's interaction with others. So the first one we identified is figurehead. Now, the figurehead represents the organization to the outside world. This is the person, this is almost a personification of the organization. This is the person that people identify with the organization. There's a role here, a social role, an inspirational role, a legal role, and a ceremonial role for the figurehead. The figurehead is the person who attends the local community in a ceremonial way, maybe educational institutions or perhaps celebratory days when sports days or whatever. So to go for social, they represent the business in that community setting. But they're also seen as the legal end of the business as well. When there's a legal issue, the figurehead is the one who has to deal with that. And the figure has to deal with people and agencies. They have to relate to the press. If there's an issue, they have to speak to the press about employment or redundancies or new discoveries or technologies or expansion plans or contraction plans or whatever. They are the person that deals with the press. They've got status and they've got authority. They've got the status to do this and they've got the authority. So when they speak with authority. And that's really because they are so skilled in the business. They have experience of the business and they can be trusted to speak on behalf of the business. The next one is the leader. Well, the leaders, this role of management is responsible for hiring, training, motivation, evaluation and supervision of subordinates. That's what the leader does. The leader creates the structure and environment in which subordinates work and are motivated. He or she observes and monitors the activities to make sure everything is running smoothly, and encourages employees, can provide the prospects of career progression, but also promotes discipline, offers promotion, I should say, to the workers, but also is the person who will enforce discipline should there be some element of rule breaking on behalf of some of the workers. So the leader aims to balance subordinates, workers if you like, and organisational needs to allow efficient operations. So the leader is the balance, getting the workers to apply themselves and ensuring that the organisational needs are met in a smooth fashion. The next one is liaison. They're responsible for maintaining good relationships with outside organisations. Information and Communication Centre, well, that's what they are. They are the Information and Communication Centre. It's important to have networking skills in order to build relationships. And some people can build relationships with, say, the press again, we mentioned it earlier, but building a relationship with the press and acting as liaison. They're a manager who deals with outside agencies and they deal effectively and represent the business in a positive light. Next we have the informational roles, the exchange and processing of information. First of all, we have the monitor. This is management's responsibility to collect data from external sources and also from inside the organisation. So you collect the data, or the management collects the data, then they analyse the data in order to evaluate the company's current situation. So they collect the data from outside, from inside, then they analyse it. The management should monitor the internal operations of the business, but also should look at the external environment to see what pressures are coming from outside. Could be legal, could be social. Many types of pressure comes from the outside. So management should monitor not just what's happening inside, but also outside. They should be able to consider ideas and do analysis. Managers should be able to listen to workers and other managers and listen to the press and be informed about what's happening in terms of technology, discoveries, developments, what's in the news. They should be able to consider ideas and see how it affects the business and what they can take out of it or what they should be avoiding, perhaps. And they should be able to analyse that. Having done that, they should be able to implement change. If change is required, it's for the manager to be able to monitor and implement the change. They should look at existing practices and see if better practices can be put into place. They should be able to solve problems. When problems arise, they should be able to solve the majority of the problems. Perhaps not all. Perhaps for some you need expertise. You need perhaps technical expertise or financial expertise or marketing expertise or whatever, legal expertise. But for many issues, day-to-day issues, the management should be able to deal with those and able to resolve the issues there and then. They should be able to look at opportunities to see what's out there and what can they pick out of this that relates to their business and could be developed alongside their business to perhaps give it a second line of production or another line of production. So develop opportunities for expanding the market or develop opportunities for entering a new market, if possible. Of course, all of that does require accurate and timely information. So that is that is important. They must have accurate and timely information. If they haven't, they can't make any of those decisions. Next we have the Disseminator. The management as a disseminator, well, this is involved in sharing information with other staff within the organisation. It's a communications issue, the manager conveys and translates information to subordinates. So it's communicating information to other parts of the organization. For example, communicating policies, or rules, regulations, values, and ensuring that it's understood, the message is understood. Then we have the spokesperson, very similar. The spokesperson is responsible for circulating information to internal and external sources. These sources are kept informed of performance and current plans and policies, perhaps press briefs, or press statements, or interviews with academics, or journalists, or trade unionists, or the person's the spokesperson for the business. This person knows and is trustworthy, is able to be believed by the other parties, but also is trusted by the organization itself to portray the organization in a positive light. For external sources, the manager may be seen as the key person to consult because of expertise and practical involvement. Sometimes they may be referred to somebody who doesn't have that reputation or that long-standing involvement, and that's when issues and problems and misunderstandings could arise. So the best tactic is to have somebody who genuinely does know and knows from practice. The spokesperson is in charge of the strategy making process, and in that sense they know what the strategy is, they know how they're doing, they know where they're going, and they have links with the outside. They know the press, or they know the academics, or they know whoever it is they want to talk to. So they are ideally placed to be the spokesperson. They have the authority, the information, and the capacity for control over important decisions. So they're the right person to speak to. Next, we've got the decision roles. This is the manager's ability to make decisions. The first one we'll look at is a little odd in this context, but we'll look at the entrepreneur. It's often quoted within the management literature in this context. In fact, the entrepreneur is not a manager. The entrepreneur is the person who sparks the original idea for the product. To make the product and to implement the process of manufacture, distribution, sales, etc., and that falls to managers. So the entrepreneur is distinct from the manager. But as I said, it's often dealt with in this context, so we'll keep it here. The manager, acting qua entrepreneur, has the capability to innovate, initiate change, and is involved with designing new products. Well, there would not be a manager in that sense, as I said before. They would probably be more entrepreneurial. The manager is also in charge of the controlled change within the organization. But more importantly, I think in the context of managerial studies, is the manager is capable of dealing with any gaps or flaws or any issues that the original idea had. So it's the management who can improve, can identify issues and improve upon them, and instigate programs for the development of the product, and be critical of the design, of the costs of the manufacturing, and so on. So there is a big role to play here for the manager, following on from the actions of the entrepreneur. And the managers have power to allocate responsibility to reliable subordinates, to ensure that products do come to market. And of course the manager also supervises and supports the subordinates. The next one under this heading is what's known as the Disturbance Handler, which is a frightening title really. Effectively resolves problems within the organisation. Disturbance Handler. They resolve problems. When problems arise, the manager, who has a skill in this area, can resolve the problems. They can take charge when the organisation, when organisational change occurs and there's unexpected changes. The reasons for these disturbances may occur due to staff or resources or threats or other mistakes. Whatever. A disturbance can cause for all sorts of reasons. Staff may be unhappy with some proposed change, or resources may be short, or there may be a breakdown in supply, or there might be threats of strikes by the trade union, or whatever. In this case, the disturbance handler, the manager responsible for the smooth running of the operation, will be required to step in. They have to work on their own initiative to try and resolve the matter. They have to evaluate the arguments on either side and take some sort of corrective action. Try to smooth over the problems. The next one is the resource allocator. This is the manager who allocates resources, including money, staff, materials, and time. Managers have to do this. Without this, the overall plan could not be implemented. So they have to schedule time, and they have to program the work. They also have to authorize action. So, without scheduling time or programming the work, well, nothing really is going to happen. Things will be at a standstill. So once it's been scheduled and programmed, they have to authorize it, get it going, get it started, get it running. Managers have an ability to model situations in their heads, and this is by and large the case. Many managers may have a scrap of paper and a pencil with them to draw a diagram or make a quick note, or many just are able to look at the situation, try to model it, and come up with some sort of solution. It could be a scheduling issue, to think, well, perhaps if I rechange, or if I change the scheduling here, it would be a greater efficiency down the line. Perhaps the work needs to be scheduled differently, a different programming of work, and so on. So they tend to be able to problem solve very quickly. Then we have the negotiator. It's obviously linked to the spokesperson and the figurehead and the resource allocator. So, but acting as a negotiator sort of comes in between. It's an element of all of these functions or these roles. This role encourages important negotiating activities with other parties and organisations. It's trying to find the best solution from conflicting interests. So they're trying to secure resources and the arrangement of favourable conditions from others. That's what a negotiator is trying to do, trying to get the best conditions, the best outcome, and make sure that the resources are still flowing. There is an issue here about generalist and specialist management. Sounds like a contradiction. But Mintzberg recognized that managerial roles may be either generalist or specialist. There may be an overall operations manager, e.g. a plant or a divisional manager, and there could also be managers for specific functions, for example a stores manager. So it's another classification. So that's Mintzberg's view of managerial roles. Each one we've looked at in little detail. There are 10 of them, and we started by looking at the characteristics, which there were 6 of those. And that concludes this video. So thank you for watching.